great to be rejoined by Brandon Anderson. He does amazing work over at Action Network. And Brandon, I know that you've been doing a great job of being able to take a look at these awards. And we'll start right here because we saw a lot happen at the trade deadline. We saw a lot happen at the All-Star break with guys being let go of, signing with new teams, what have you. Of everything that we saw in terms of the trade deadline period, I think that that's the best way of putting it. What has been the biggest mover in terms of any of these awards? It could be a sixth man of the year, even like a coach of the year. Who has been the biggest mover based on everything that we did see at that deadline?
Yeah, I would say, I think the biggest award move at the deadline has to be the sixth man of the year race, just because Russell Wilson, he's not winning any awards anytime soon. Westbrook was 100-1 earlier in the year, and then suddenly became the odds-on favorite with a minus in front of him. I don't know if we really ever believed that was the case. That almost seemed like a liability coverage sort of thing. But the man was putting up numbers, and we know we like to give Russell Westbrook awards. Well, when you get traded off of your team just because they're trying to get rid of you and then cut off of the next team, I think we pretty much know where that's going. So, yeah, that one's been interesting because that sort of blew the sixth man of the year race open, and it kind of left like, well, Malcolm Brogdon, he's the next in line. He's on a good team. Usually that's where this comes from. He's scoring a pretty good number of points, but he's not the sexiest leader. So then it's like, all right, well, who is going to be in the mix there? I've had my eye on Norm Powell from the Clippers. He's still, I think, is more in the mix than books are giving credit for. He's the leading bench scorer, and that's usually what we do here. But of course, the big buzz right now is Emmanuel Quickley out in New York. Everyone loves their New York candidate, and he suddenly went from, as recently as a couple of weeks ago, post All-Star break, he was posting like a 200-1, like he was barely even recognizable. And he is the favorite now at most books. And I think that race is still going to kind of shape up and maybe move a little bit here before we get to the end of the season.
I do think that it is so interesting to take a look at all these guys that are moving and shaking. And is there anyone that, it could be a guy that moved, it could be a guy that didn't move, but someone that you see other than Emmanuel Quickley that's really ascending and is starting to gain some steam in the market that there's still a nice little bit of a time to buy in on them here for the stretch run?
I don't know at sixth man. I'm not sure that there's somebody, but let me pivot to another award here. Let me go with most improved. I still think that the most improved player odds are a little bit off of what I would expect. We've had a lot of Lauri Markkanen all year. He's the clear favorite at books right now. And from my history doing the research here, typically voters give most improved player to not just somebody that improves, not just somebody whose numbers go up. All those things have to happen. They got to win, too. We need a player that makes the playoffs. 9 out of the last 10 players that won most improved made the postseason. And typically, they're a player that contends for All-NBA as well. Lauri Markkanen and the Jazz, it seems like they're starting to fade a little bit. They're starting to fall off. And I almost wonder, the Jazz have a really tough schedule coming up down the stretch here. That would be very easy for Danny Ainge to lean into and be like, you know what, guys, we had fun, right? But we traded away half of our team now at the deadline. Let's just go ahead and lose a few extra games, get a few more ping pong balls for the Wembanyama sweepstakes. That's what the Jazz were assumed to be doing all year. I think that's the direction they're going. And if it is, Lowry maybe just doesn't play as much. He gets one of those phantom sprained ankles that we've seen another candidate, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, usually gets. I think Gilgeous-Alexander is still in the mix. I think OKC is in the mix for the play-in and will push all the way. And I think Jalen Brunson, he would be my pick to win right now because we're going to get down to the end here, and we're going to see Lowry, Brunson, Shai. I think Halliburton will get some votes. I think Mikal Bridges will get some votes. We're going to get maybe a split decision here. And if there's a split decision, wouldn't you want to back the one guy who's definitely in the playoffs, who's the best player on a playoff team, by the way, in a big market where we know a lot of voters live and watch the games at? I just think, I don't know that Brunson should win. We don't care about who should win as bettors. We care about who's going to win. I had Brunson before the season 25-1. I got some more 50-1. He's closer to 4-1 now, but I honestly think that he would be my pick to be the favorite to win this award still.
And I am holding on to some Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at 18-1 as well. So I am right there with you. If we can knock Lauri Markkanen out of the race, get it to Brunson or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, that would be very, very ideal for myself, to say the least. And then just taking a little bit more of a team perspective on things, I do think that the West is wide open. I don't know if you've been able to have too much of a read on this, but it's been a little bit difficult for me because I've always been of the nature of fading a lot of these teams that they make these blockbuster deals, just because in any form of basketball, whether that be your child's AAU team, whether that be the Olympic team, the NBA, college basketball, chemistry still matters. It does feel like it might be a little bit different with the Suns. I can't get behind them to win the title, but I feel like in the West, it's as wide open as it gets. I don't know if you've got any value on any of these teams in the West, but it feels just like a murky conference at this point.
It does feel murky, but the team that I've liked all season is no surprise. It's the one at the top. It's the Denver Nuggets. They are coasting away to the 1 seed. They're coasting, I think, to a Nikola Jokic MVP, a third one in a row. And I actually think that the Suns' big move for Kevin Durant bought us an extra month or two of window of value to bet on the Nuggets. I still think Denver is going to come out of the West. They're going to be the 1 seed. They're going to get an easier matchup early on because of that. The Suns, they might play the Warriors in the first round. That's the defending champs, and they might not be what they were last year, but you do not want to have to face Steph and Clay and Draymond when they're healthy and going for it. It's not a fun matchup for anybody. You might have to face Luka and Kyrie. That could be the Phoenix's first-round matchup for a team that by that point maybe has played, 20 games together with their core guys with Durant there. So, yeah, I think Durant does slot in very nicely. He's not necessarily, like you said, a guy that needs a ton of reps in chemistry. He's just going to score the ball. He's just going to fit in and do his thing there. So I think that it'll work all right. But I like the Nuggets. I think that they're the best team in the West. I think their defense is underrated. The offense we know is great. Nikola Jokic, for all the crap he's getting on social media, the man has been awesome in the playoffs. They haven't made big runs, but it's because everyone else is hurt. Well, right now, Jamal Murray starting to look like a superstar again. He's finally getting healthy. He's playing great. Aaron Gordon was playing an all-star level as kind of the perfect glue guy on the team. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, I think, is another version of that. Michael Porter Jr., that guy can score 20 and a quarter at any time. He could, swing a series with a big shooting performance. I just think the Nuggets are the team in the West, and I don't know if I love them in a finals matchup, like against Milwaukee or Boston. So I probably would be looking to play a Denver West future more than a title future. But I think the Suns' move for Durant has actually bought value on Denver instead.
And with the Denver Nuggets, they have been the team that really has consistently been able to do it time and time again in the West this season. And they're one of the few teams that are able to win on the road in the West as well, which, just as the Golden State Warriors, how hard that has been all season long. And I know something else that you've done a good job of is teams to be able to make/miss the playoffs. Who have been a few teams in particular that you've been spotlighting with a little bit of value either to make/miss it?
Yeah, I think you have to look in the West. The East has kind of gotten a little boring in some ways. We kind of know how the East is shaping out. The West, we're starting to get a little bit of an idea. I think we have a top 4 in the West now. We thought the Clippers were up there. They've fallen back to the group. We thought the Kings were maybe in the back group. They've surged up ahead. So I think you look and I see 5, 6, 7, 8 now in some order. Mavericks, Warriors, Wolves, Clippers. I think there's a little mini drop-off after that to the rest of the teams, which that includes the Lakers. The Lakers are making a push. They've got a really easy schedule coming up, but I think because they know we want to bet on the Lakers, they know we want to bet on LeBron to make the playoffs. If you are the 9 or the 10 seed, you've got to win 2 elimination play-in games just to make the playoffs. And the Lakers aren't even guaranteed to make the 9 or 10 seed spot either. So I think right now there still is value on Lakers to miss the playoffs. I think that number is low. And honestly, you don't have to bet it yet. I think that number is going to get a little shorter as they inevitably make their push. People go all in. On the flip side, I like the Thunder. I still think the Thunder can make the play-in. I've seen it around 5-1. I still think they're making a push there. They're not going to go in the tank, and they'd be my pick. I think they could even be the team that ends up knocking the Lakers out.
My Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, most improved player future. Likes to hear that, and always love having you aboard, Brandon. Thank you so much for joining me.
Visit VSiN.com to get current odds, listen for free, find showtimes, and download VSiN sports betting podcasts.